this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Jazz Albums Review Series. And today I am going to be taking a look at a brand new 2024 release from one of the best guitar players on the scene right now and one of my all-time favourites who I have been following for a really long time now, since the very beginning when he first burst onto the scene as a young prodigy and played on Gary Burton's Generations recording. And this is a guy who I feel is on a real roll right now, and he continues to keep getting better and better with not only his playing but with every listen as well. And this is someone who needs no introduction whatsoever. I am talking about, of course, the one and only world-renowned guitarist, bandleader and composer Julian Lage, and this is his newest recording for Blue Note Records, Speak to Me. So Speak to Me marks the first time since 2023's The Layers featuring Bill Frisell that Julian Lage has recorded and released an album featuring new material. And this marks a shift and a different direction for Julian Lage. Now, for a good chunk of Julian Lage's catalogue, it has been primarily trio, but for this album, Speak to Me, he still retains his working trio, but he has kind of expanded things a little bit. So we've got more instruments and more musicians added to the mix. So we've got strings, we've got piano, we've got some keyboards, we've got some vibraphone, we've got some sax, some clarinet. It's all there. And while for the most part Speak to Me is a good solid album, in all honesty I kind of feel that there's too much going on. It at times feels like it's very overcrowded. I feel, although Julian Lage plays absolutely fantastic as you'd expect, I feel he kind of gets lost a little bit on his own album. And I appreciate and respect the fact that Julian Lage wants to try different things, but for me personally, as a fan, I would much rather hear Julian Lage in solo guitar, duo, or trio. I just feel that, there's just so much going on here. I mean, there are some great tracks on here, there's some great playing. There are a few tracks on here that I don't really care for that much, and there's one or two tracks on here, yeah, they don't really click with me. I mean, I've listened to this album a number of times, and while the good outweighs the bad, of course, I don't feel that this is one of Julian Lage's strongest. Now, of course, it's just only my opinion. Everyone's entitled to theirs. Some out there probably say, what are you talking about? This is a fantastic album. This is one of his best. I'm not knocking it. It's a good album, but it's not really what you want to hear. You want to hear more guitar playing. And while there is plenty of guitar playing on this album, I just feel that there are other instruments that kind of get in the way a little bit. As I said, it's got a much more looser, a much more free style in the music, but at the same time, I don't know really. I just think that maybe some of his other albums are a little bit more stronger than this one. But as I said, I have listened to this a number of times. There's some great tracks, there's some excellent playing, but I just feel that this album would have been a lot better if it was a trio, personally. But I'm not taking anything away from the guys. But yeah, still a good album, but yeah, there are better ones out there. But it's not a clunker. It's just, maybe it's not as strong as it could be. So anyway, let's have a look, shall we? So there's all the tracks, who plays on what. All of the compositions are written and composed by Julian Lage, and all of the material is arranged by Julian Lage and Jorge Roeder. So musicians that are featured on Speak to Me are Julian Lage on electric and acoustic guitars, longtime working trio members, rhythm section, Jorge Roeder on bass, and Dave King on drums. And then we've got Levon Henry on saxophones and clarinet, Patrick Warren on strings and keyboards, and Kris Davis on piano. It's a good lineup of musicians, but yeah, it's not really what you want to hear. But they don't all play together. So first track we got here is Hymnal, which is more of a quartet number. It's a great track. Jorge Roeder plays bass and vibraphone. It's actually a really good opener, and we've got some strings and we've got some nice keyboard textures as well. Nice opener. Then we've got Northern Shuffle, which is pretty much the same lineup, but we've got Levon Henry on saxophone, and we've got Patrick Warren playing harmonica and organ, and we've got Kris Davis on piano. It's all right. Bit too much going on here. Omission, which is more of a quartet number. Julian Lage is doing double duty here, playing acoustic and electric guitars, and we've got Patrick Warren on piano. This is an excellent track. You know, it's one of the best tracks on the album. I really enjoyed this one a lot. And then we've got Serenade, which is the same lineup. Another great track. Great piano playing from Warren. Great bass playing from Jorge Roeder. Great drumming from Dave King. And of course, great guitar playing from Julian Lage. And then we've got the next track, Myself Around You, which is a solo acoustic track. For me personally, the best track of the entire album. Absolutely gorgeous. And if you like Julian Lage performing solo acoustic, highly recommend you check out World's Fair. It's probably the best Julian Lage album ever for me. I think it's his best album, and you really get to hear what an amazing acoustic player Julian Lage really is. And then we got South Mountain with Levon Henry on clarinet and Patrick Warren on keyboards and strings and Kris Davis on piano. It's all right. I just feel, you know, as a big fan of the clarinet, I just feel the clarinet's a little bit dull here. It's not really very loud. I mean, I'm not saying it's got to be overpowering, but would have liked to have heard the clarinet maybe just a little bit more, but it's okay. It's a decent track. And then we got the title track, Speak to Me, which features the same lineup but without Kris Davis. It's okay. You know, as I said before, the good outweighs the bad, but at the same time, there's some tracks that are kind of hit and miss, really, but it's okay. 2 and 1, which is Julian Lage on acoustic guitar and more of a quartet number. Absolutely fantastic. Excellent track. Vanishing Points, we got Levon Henry on alto clarinet. Again, yeah, too much instruments going on here. As I said, the tracks that have the trio with piano and the solo acoustic tracks, they're absolutely amazing. If this had been a quartet album with just a pianist, I think we'd be having a very different conversation here. But as I said, the good still outweighs the bad, but yeah, there's just some tracks that maybe might be a bit too much. Then we got the next track here, Ty Borum, which is more of a quartet number, and Patrick Warren on keyboards. Pretty good track. I really enjoyed this one a lot. Then we got As It Were, Julian Lage playing acoustic guitar with his trio and Patrick Warren playing piano and keyboards. Absolutely excellent. Really good track, that is. Then we got 76, which is the same lineup with Patrick Warren, Levon Henry, and Kris Davis. So we pretty much got everyone on this track. Yeah, too much going on here. It's okay. The playing's great, but yeah, as I said, a bit overcrowded for my liking. And then we got the closer. Nothing happens here. Great acoustic playing, but again, too much going on here. Maybe this could have been a trio. My only takeaway with this album, there's no trio tracks. And I would have liked to have heard maybe the 3 of them. But as I said, the good outweighs the bad. But at the same time, yeah, I definitely feel this is a little bit too overcrowded. So the standout tracks for me are Hymnal, great opener, Omission, another great track, Myself Around You, as I said, the best track of the entire album, 2 and 1, another great track, Ty Borum, another great track as well, and As It Were, another great track as well. Those are the standout tracks for me. But as I said, the good outweighs the bad. It's a good solid album, but as I said, probably not one of his strongest, but still enjoyable, still a great listen. But I feel that maybe in Julian Lage's catalogue there are some albums that are just a little bit better than others. And for me personally, Julian Lage is at his best playing trio, and some of those trio albums he's made with his long-time working trio, Jorge Roeder and Dave King, they're just absolutely fantastic. But Speak to Me, a good solid album. Is it my album of the year? It's one of the best albums of the year, but I want to say it's the album of the year. The good outweighs the bad. There's some good tracks that pretty much carry over and outweigh the bad, but there's some tracks on here that are kind of hit and miss. So there you have it. Julian Lage, Speak to Me, a good solid album, but I feel that there are some albums out there of his that are just maybe a little bit better. So there you have it. Speak to Me. So that's going to be it from me. I am going to wrap this up now. What's your favourite track from Julian Lage? Speak to Me. Is it Hymnal, Northern Shovel, Omission, Serenade, Myself Around You, South Mountain, Speak to Me, 2 and 1, Vanishing Points, Tiburon, As It Were, 76, or Nothing Happens Here? Or do you enjoy the entire album from start to finish? There's no right or wrong answer. We all have our favourite tracks. You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Jazz Albums Review Series. So until then, take care everybody and stay safe, and once again as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.